Hi, welcome back to a new video. To begin with, I apologize for the uh, camera quality. My camera kind of gave up today. Um, I don't know, it's just not lighting up. Maybe my Mac needs an update, or I'm not sure. Anyways, we're going to have to make do with our Mac camera today, but it shouldn't be too bad as I'll be mostly showing code and not my face. My face is going to be tinier here. Yeah, let's get into it. So in the last video, we kind of went through this render function and kind of went through it like a pseudocode. Said it has create element, it finds a diff, puts stuff in the commit queue, and then it commits root, which I'm assuming writes stuff. What I wanted to understand next was how create element works. So create element here comes from this file create-element.js, and I'm assuming it creates the actual virtual node which later gets converted to an HTML node. This file seems to be it. Wow. So create element. What do we expect out of create element? Create element gives you this virtual node. Create element takes a fragment. So fragment here is a function that returns the children. So in React, a fragment is basically an element that is kind of a dummy element which just encapsulates its children, right? So what we do to create element is we give it a function that returns its children or returns any node, I suppose. You create an element and you put vnode, the old one. So the vnode here is the actual component tree or app, right? So this is what I mean when you say render. This app component, the root component tree, that's what comes up here, and you kind of make it into an array, which is still a mystery to me. What's the second parameter in create element? Create element takes, okay, you can give it a bunch of props. Yeah, so create element is basically a type, props, and children. So with these parameters in mind, let's go through this function line by line. So we define normalized props. Let this this makes sense, at least using let here, because we change stuff. Okay, this function excludes ref and key props and puts the rest into this object. Cool, makes sense, I guess. Maybe these are special props that the preact wants to handle differently. When we remove those, it kind of normalizes the props and puts them here. So if arguments dot length is greater than 3, so these are the arguments. So it expects 3 arguments. If it's greater than 3, interesting. So you can create element with multiple children here. Okay, interesting. So it starts, so it puts the rest, looks like for I equals 3, starts from 3, goes till the end of the arguments, increments, and pushes them into children. Makes this an array. Oh my god, it's already an array. If children is not equal to null, then normalized, so okay, it's made into children prop. Cool. So what was this issue? I'm curious now. But I want to know this. Create element generates circular data structure in 10. What version are we on again? Oh, very recent bug. RC2. Interesting. The executing function can generate circular data structure causing an infinite loop, and the result is later passed to render. Steps to reproduce h, render require preact. Element h here is create element, I suppose. Oh wow! Here I'm reading through the rest of the issue. Interesting. You see, right? The code before created an empty array and put all of the stuff after that array into that empty array. Now it initializes the array with the children. Wow, but why? This part took a little bit of back and forth for me to truly grasp what the issue was. Wow. Why do they use the same variable everywhere? More frustrated playing around with the code, trying to understand what the hell is happening. So the bug was the code looked like this before, and if you send it, let's recreate it. Let's recreate the bug, right? I don't know, I find it interesting. Here I spent a bunch of time trying to reproduce the issue. I tried to copy paste the code that I found in the GitHub issue into the demo file to see if I could switch the code to how it was before and make the issue happen again, but I found it quite challenging. Don't get it. What's the fix? What? Here I found that the person who opened a PR for the fix also was having trouble reproducing it. There was a comment in the thread which kind of gave a much better hint as to how to get the issue to happen again. It says the bug happens only when useStrict is not present. So no useStrict. The comment mentioned that useStrict would be added on to the project by a Babel plugin. So I kind of tried to search for it. I went really quiet there as I was trying to desperately look for a way to reproduce this weird issue that I wanted to. So here I figured out that I have to get into the build file, and that is not possible with Webpack Dev Server. So I made a custom npm command to get the build files and ran that npm run build to find the build.js files. So if I go here, this was me forgetting how to start a simple HTTP server, so I Google it and find out I can do it with Python, and then copy that command over to start my own HTTP server at localhost 8000. Cool. Localhost 8000. Okay, to do here I found all the instances of use strict in that file and deleted all of them. So here I restart the simple HTTP server and find that I can reproduce the issue, and it is a Stack Overflow error. I'm not sure if yeah, so the bug that's being fixed by this person here is from this issue, which says that it makes a circular data structure, and so possibly a Stack Overflow, right? So they had a discussion and all of that. So how I was able to reproduce that is I reverted back to the code that was there before, which I equals to children is an empty thing, and then I removed all use strict, and I was able to reproduce it. So now if I fix it with this and I do this, now I needed to build and restart the server again after making no Stack Overflow. Yay. Okay, that's a really interesting thing that I learned today. Strict and non-strict modules or functions. For non-strict function, the integer indexed data properties of an argument's object whose numeric name values are less than the number of formal parameters of the corresponding function object initially share their values with the corresponding argument bindings in the function's execution context. It means that change the property changes the corresponding value of the argument binding and vice versa. I think this is the most important thing. When you are not using strict, if you replace fog, that's what happens. In non-strict cases, when a function does not use strict modules, when you replace the value of an argument, the value in the arguments array also changes. It's interesting to know that useStrict is added by Babel, and the preact bundle itself is not a strict function. I think that's what I learned today about preact. So the rest of createElement seems straightforward enough. So it adds children as a prop. If the component we node is there, so here it does type equals function, type default props is null, is not null, then add it to default props. Cool. Then it creates a virtual node, which takes the type. In our case, it was fragment. props.key, props.ref, and all the normalized props. So normalized props goes in as a separate object. Key and ref go in as parameters. So create node needs type, props, key, and ref. Wow, that's a lot of information that I did not understand. And here what it does is it creates an object. So this is looks like this is a typical virtual node object. Just children as underscore children null, parent is null. I think this is specific to a new element that gets created, because every time create element gets called, this gets called. So it does not set any children or parent. Depth is 0, DOM is null, some child component. I suspect these things get set later. Ref, key, type, and props all get put in there in the vnode object, and it gets returned. Wow. It has a create ref. That's an empty object fragment which we looked at, and to check if it's a valid preact vnode, the constructor has to be undefined apparently. So vnode is just creating an object which has the type, props, key, and ref, and other stuff which I'm assuming somebody else fills in. That's how you create an element. An element, in the end, when you create an element, is basically an object that has the type, props, ref, and key in it. So that's it for today. Sorry for taking you down a rabbit hole, but that was interesting. I learned something, and I hope you learned too. In the next episode, we'll get into the diff and the commit root functions, which may actually be the meat of preact. Until then, see ya.